Recording. Cindy, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, Pino, I am great. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's freezing. The roads are terrible out there. We got some snow this morning. We got a dusting.
Yes, we do. We're supposed to
Yeah.
get a little bit more, but hopefully it all melts away. Or maybe
Yes.
we keep it until Christmas and then it can
Yeah,
melt
let's yeah, let's
away.
keep it to Christmas then bring back the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. There you go. Cindy, today we're gonna chat about choosing the right fit and what does that look like for job seekers? Because I think so many people right now are scrambling to find work, rightfully so. But I think fit plays no, I don't think I know finding the right fit is critical for your job search. Would you agree?
100%. I think it's critical for the job search, and I think it's critical for like maintaining satisfaction and fulfillment once you're there over time. So I
Yeah.
think it plays in both sides. Yeah.
So on today's call, we'll chat about how to find the right fit and understanding that. And before we do that, I'll let you give us your elevator pitch. Tell us a little bit of who you are.
Okay, sure. So I'm Cindy Harvey. I'm a career and leadership coach. I work primarily with high performers who have corporate careers and who have built successful corporate careers, but they get to a point where they plateau and they get stagnant and stuck. And so I work with them to help them to redesign their career and do so on terms that work for them. And that's a little bit of what I do.
There you go. Awesome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pino. I run and operate a company called the Staffing Alternative. We specialize in the temporary and permanent executive placement of HR professionals throughout the GTA. I've been in the staffing world for, well over 20 years. So if you're an HR professional and you're watching this and you're looking for your next great opportunity, connect with me. And if you're adding to your team and you're looking to hire HR professionals, feel free to connect with me. And we'll tell you how to do that at the end of this video. But so Cindy here, let's jump right into it. Find the right fit. It's really critical. I think so many people we see oftentimes people move from job to job because they don't find that right fit, and it's so critical finding your home. But how do they do it? Where do they start? Right? So
Mm-hmm.
I gave it some thought, and I think that one, I think before when you are looking for work, finding the right fit is going to be essential. Understanding what you want as a job seeker, right? Like, what is it that you want? What do you understand the role you want? Do you understand the industry you want to work in? Do you understand, like, where do you see yourself maybe 5, 10 years from now down the road? So I think for me, number one, it starts with understanding what you want and where you're heading. So once you understand that, I think you have a clearer understanding of where you're going in terms of your career. Would you agree?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. That's something that I work on with clients all the time is really defining what that fit looks like for them. And I think that it can be a bit cloudy. I think sometimes when we're in a work environment for a really long time, and one of the mistakes that I see in my work as a coach is that once, let's say that they've defined really clearly what that right fit looks like for them over time, I think they also hold on to the expectation that the environment that they chose, sometimes 5, 10 years prior, the environment that they chose, they expected to stay a perfect fit forever until the end of time.
Yep.
And sometimes what happens, actually, not even sometimes, I think most times what happens is that the work environment has to evolve, right? It has to evolve. It's not going to stay stagnant forever.
Yep.
And I think the mistake that folks make is that they treat it as though if it was good in the past or when I started or in the first couple of years, that that's proof that it's the right place for me until the end of time.
Yep.
And the problem with that is that you as an individual change as you
Yep.
should, the
Yep.
environment changes, the company's goal changes, leaders come and go, your needs and your lifestyle and your priorities change. So it has to evolve. And I think the shift that's really important is to understand, to expect that it will evolve.
Yep.
And to once you start to see that shift happening, like it doesn't feel like it's the right fit anymore, to really start to focus on what's next, right? And to
Mhm.
see that change as part of you have developed.
Yep.
And without that, I think you end up just really, someone can end up being stagnant if they stay in the wrong environment for too long.
Yeah, but you talked about change. I think oftentimes we see people staying in jobs much longer than they wanted to because they're just afraid of that change,
Yes.
right? Like change is scary for most of us,
Yep, 100%. Yeah,
right?
100. So we
So
just, keep doing what we're doing, right?
yeah,
And
we're on
you
autopilot.
know, exactly. That's a great way to describe it. Definitely
Yeah,
autopilot,
yeah,
and we complain about it, right? It's not that we don't know that something's not right,
yeah,
but folks complain about their job to their spouse or to their
yeah,
friends or to their partner, but
yeah,
don't actually take the step to make that shift. So I think
yeah,
this conversation about fit is really important
yeah,
because it makes such a difference, right? It makes such a difference.
yeah. And I often talk when I'm screening candidates, I'm saying like, what does the right fit look for you? Like, what is it for you? And I do ask that when I am screening candidates, like, what is the fit? Like, what are your most important? Like, what are you looking for in your next role?
Yeah.
And again, I think once you understand that, it gives you some clarity, and then it'll help you get a better idea what you're looking for in terms of your job search. So tip number one for me is understanding what you want. Tip number two is, do you understand when you are looking for work? And as I mentioned this, I think people are just spraying and praying. I mention this often. I think they're just blasting their resume to multiple jobs online that they see as available. Oh, I can do that job. But I think it's got to go deeper than that. You have to research the company, understand. So if there's a company that you're looking to apply for, does the organization, is there an alignment with with, you know, is there what are understanding the company's values, their mission, right? Once you understand that, understand one, what you're looking for, and if there's alignment with the organization, again, the mission, their values, their beliefs. Once that alignment's there, that's going to be make for a better fit. Would you agree?
Hmm. I definitely do agree, and I think that here's a question for you, Pino, if you've
Yeah.
experienced this. But I think that what I see with clients is that they don't really know how to assess whether or not the environment is a good fit for them. Do you have
Yes.
any suggestions on how they would do that?
The organizations.
Yeah, like the if I'm interviewing, if I'm a candidate and I'm interviewing with a company, how do I assess whether that organization is a good match for me?
I think just having dialogue, asking the right questions,
Hmm.
sitting down, meeting with the leaders, and just picking their brain, and not being afraid to ask those questions, and just say, tell me about the company culture. Tell me why you like working here. How long have you been here? What keeps you here? Tell
Right.
me about, things like turnover rate. Tell me about that. Where can I be 5 years from now if I do accept this role? So I think having asking those questions
Hmm.
will
Hmm.
definitely make life easier for you.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that
Right.
makes a lot of sense. Makes a
And I
lot of
think
sense.
too, Cindy, I think
Yeah.
sometimes we're afraid to ask those questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. And
Yeah.
I think that brings me to the second point. The first point that I made more on the mistakes that people make is expecting the environment to stay the right fit for forever. I
Yeah.
think that to that point of assessing the organization, I think one of the other mistakes that I see with clients is what I call normalizing the friction. And what that's about is that as high performers, we're often trained and rewarded, I would say, for being able to push through the discomfort or the difficulty
Yeah.
and create the results anyways.
Yeah.
And so we learn to make those points of friction feel normal
Yeah.
instead of questioning it. And we say things like, "Oh, this is just the way that it is," or "I need to adjust and I need to adapt and I need to change,"
Yeah.
or "It's really busy right now, but it'll
Yeah.
calm down." And does that
Yeah.
ever actually happen?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of mindset is very useful for delivery and for execution and for pushing through to create the result. But it can be really dangerous, I would say, for fit
Yeah.
because when someone is in a work environment that constantly leaves them feeling drained
Yeah.
or feeling, that what I call friction, they start to second guess themselves or they start to play small
Yeah.
or label it as a tough season. I
Yeah.
think that's where we get into problems. And I think the coaching that I would give to if I was working with a client who is experiencing this is
Yeah.
to really see those points of friction
Yeah.
where maybe the work environment or the company culture doesn't match them anymore because things have changed, to
Yeah.
see those points of friction as data points. They're information, it's feedback. And often what I see that's really happening beneath the surface is that individual high performer, what they're doing by normalizing the friction is they're actually lowering their standards and their expectations of what
Yeah.
they really need to be successful and to thrive and to live up to their potential,
Yeah.
right? So there gets to a point where there's a mismatch between what they need and what the company or the work environment is capable of giving them. Yeah.
So you talk about being drained. Isn't
Yes.
that just part of working? Isn't that just part of like feeling exhausted? Isn't that like just that's work? Is it normal
Yeah.
to feel
You know,
exhausted or it's not?
yeah, here's the way I think about it. I think about it in terms of seasons. Right? To me, if you are in a never-ending season of always being burnt out, of always being exhausted, of always feeling that friction or that mismatch, to me that tells one story
Yeah.
versus a season where it's, you know, we're pushing to a finish line for a particular project,
Yeah.
right? To me, the burnout or the pace should go in peaks and valleys.
Yep.
To me, that's different than something that is just constantly there, a nagging, a nagging
Yep.
point
Yep.
that is just always there. I think you handle those two things in different ways.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I would agree. Every situation is different, right? Like there's parts of my job that is exhausting, but I still, for some crazy reason, I still get fulfillment out of what I do. When I stop feeling that fulfillment, like I'm not happy anymore, this is not for me, because we all change, we all develop, we mature, and we grow. And once I've grown out of this, then I'll find my next journey or my next adventure, right? But which is a great segue to my next point, and I want to talk about there's got to be a gut feeling when we talk about finding the right fit. There's got to be, they say never go by your gut feeling, but we have this intuition that God
Mhm,
puts in us, and that gut feeling will tell you yes or no, right? And
mhm.
it'll help guide you. It's like your compass.
Yep.
Right. So when we talk about finding the right fit, what does your gut tell you? I always say, what does your gut tell you? What does your instincts tell you?
Mhm,
Right.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree that that's part of the equation when we're figuring out fit, either as part of a job search or just as part of managing your career.
Yeah.
And what I think is tricky with this instinct, this idea of instinct, particularly when it comes to fit, is that going back to my second point about normalizing the friction, if we are not regularly checking in with ourselves about what we need, to your first point of like, what
Yeah.
do I actually need right now?
Yeah.
I think what can happen is we misinterpret our instincts and or we override is probably a better word. We override what our instinct is telling us.
Mhm.
And that's another issue that I see with clients that I work with is that they notice the friction and they override it. And their assumption then becomes that they are the problem,
Yeah.
right? They see it and they immediately decide that it must be my fault.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge with that is I think high performers are kind of naturally wired to be problem solvers and to
Yeah.
have solutions and answers. And their way of fixing that friction or that fit problem that they're seeing is they, first of all, take responsibility for the fix and for figuring out what's not working. And secondly, they decide that the solution is that they need to perform better. They need to learn how to influence better and they need to work harder, which happens a lot.
Yeah. So they're
And
critical of themselves. They're critical.
exactly, exactly. Instead
Yeah.
of really, to me, I think the coaching I would give is that you've got to, sure, maybe there's things that you need to grow and you places where you need to grow and learn and be better. So that I think is a given. And we also need to look at the environment, right? We also need to look at the environment and um, it's not also think about maybe it's not just maybe it's them. Maybe you've outgrown the role. Maybe you've
Yeah.
outpaced the culture. and it
Yep.
just doesn't match you anymore,
Yep.
right? Those are all elements that are really, really important to
Yep.
choosing the right organization and staying in the organization that really is the right match for you. Instead of thinking,
Yes.
I'm doing something wrong, also think about, could it be this environment that no longer is a right fit and is not
Yeah.
capable for matching me for who I am now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we change and we evolve and we want to try different things. We want to do different things, right? And have different experiences, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's super normal. Like, and that's
Yeah.
how it should be. We
Yeah.
should grow and we should evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes the companies or the person that we report to doesn't move at the same pace or in the same direction that we
Yeah.
want to. And that's okay. That's
And that's
okay.
okay. And that's part of life, right?
100%.
That's part of life. When I'm sourcing candidates, when it comes to fit, if I'm and this is how we've been trained, Cindy. So if I'm working with a client that's looking for an HR business partner in manufacturing, let's say it's automotive manufacturing, I
Hmm.
lean towards looking at people in manufacturing. It doesn't have to be automotive. It could be anything because I know historically that's a better match. It's a better fit.
Hmm.
Because if you've had success in a manufacturing environment, you're more likely to have success in another organization. So
Hmm.
what the organization does, what they do, if it's manufacturing, professional services, insurance, whatever, banking, whatever it is, you're more likely to have success
Right.
in a different company within the same, let's say, industry, right? Would you agree? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely, I would agree with that. And I think that, that is industry is, I think, what we're pointing to
Yeah.
here. I think
Yeah.
that is one element of fit.
Yeah.
And I think there are many others. So definitely, I think looking at the alignment, like all industries operate differently, right? Like a
Yes.
lot of my experience comes from the tech world,
Yep.
which is fast paced, it is innovation, it
Yep.
is, just making quick decisions, it's relationship oriented. So that's a
Yep.
style
Yep.
that can point to being a good fit. For someone else, that's a nightmare,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
That
Yeah.
so to your
Yeah.
point, like definitely there's something to be said for if you, I think created success is one way of looking at it, but also to your earlier point about instinct, like does this feel right? Does this
Yeah.
manufacturing industry or manufacturing type of environment feel like
Yeah.
a match to me? If
Yeah.
you experience that once, then chances are that you can experience it again from an industry perspective, but then you
Yeah.
also have fit with your boss, fit with
Yeah.
what you actually do every single day,
Yeah.
fit with your peers and colleagues. So it can
Yeah.
be layered and sometimes a bit complex, I think, this whole idea of
Yes.
fit.
This is where it gets tricky, Cindy. So again,
Yeah.
staying on that, staying on that topic, when I am working with a client and they're in the manufacturing space, they will only look at candidates that are working in that industry. They won't look at someone who's working, let's say, in professional service that says, I'm tired of working in professional service. I really would love to work in a manufacturing setting. I'd like to be on the shop floor talking to employees, boots on the ground. But employers, and not all, I don't want to paint them with all that same brush, but they tend to say, no, I'm only looking at candidates that have worked in, I don't know, again, manufacturing, since we're talking about, I'm only looking at that. So they won't even look at anyone else. And I think that may be an issue because
Hmm.
sometimes I believe that they're shutting the door down on some really great talents that may
Yeah.
be a good fit, but
Hmm.
they have blinders on and they're only looking at this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that, putting my HR hat on for a second, I think that from the internal perspective of the company or the person doing the hiring,
Yeah.
hiring is really risky. It can work
Yeah.
out really well and it can
Yeah.
also work out really badly,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think the way I think about it is as much as possible, this I think applies to job search and it applies to people once they're in the organization and going through performance management and going
Yeah.
through succession planning and all of those career development activities that we need to do.
Yeah.
I think it applies in both of those scenarios where, as much as possible, we're trying to minimize risk, right?
Yes.
Minimize risk and minimize risk because
Yeah.
it's costly and it creates
It's
a lot of disruption when it doesn't work.
and it's a loss of time too, right?
Yep, absolutely. Time
Right.
and money, and in business, those things matter. Yeah.
And time is money, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So This is an interesting topic, Cindy. We can chat about this for quite some time, but
We can.
yeah. But I'm gonna wrap up. And thanks for your time, Cindy. But before we wrap up, for those watching and they do want to connect with you, tell us how they do that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to share that. So I'm on LinkedIn. So just look up my name, Cindy Harvey, and you will find my smiling face. So feel free to
Yep.
send me a request to connect.
Okay.
And I also have a career guide that I can make available to anyone who's interested. It's just cindyharveyonline.com
Yep.
/habits. So feel free to
Awesome.
download that.
Awesome. Perfect. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm easy to find. Just search for me, Pino Odessa. I'm on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. So not too hard to track me down. So Cindy, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Pete.
Until next time, we're talking next week, I think, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Pino.
No problem. I'll see you next week.
Okay, take
Take
care.
care. Bye.